Welcome to the Creative Play and Podcast Network. Join us as we share our favorite RPGs, one-shot games, tabletop games, reviews, and convention panels. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Kelly, aka Trixie from Ragnarok and Roll, assigned to Ragnarok Story, and Tilda Wimblewick from D&D Journey of the 5th Edition. First off, I would just like to say thank you to everyone for listening to our varied adventures, as well as for rating us on iTunes and rpgpodcast.com. If you haven't rated us yet, we would greatly appreciate it if you could. And if you're looking for more ways to support our efforts, we are now on Patreon, a great site where you can help us continue making more podcasts, as well as some special surprises for our patrons. If you can, please look us up at www.patreon.com/cppn. Every little bit helps. And again, thank you for listening.
Cosplay content for YouTube. Content is spelled wrong in my PowerPoint.
It makes it funny.
Though it says cosplay, this is kind of more just like a general, like, how to make videos that are not boring. When I did this on Patreon for, like, my patrons, one of my friends dubbed it Sarah's Guide to Fixing Your Boring Sewing Videos. So a lot of this is just about content in general, not specifically about like cosplay stuff, but there's some stuff in there that are specific to that. Give me one sec. I forgot to hit record on.
The button is real.
The what?
The button is real.
The button is real.
How many times you forget to hit?
It's like, oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. So first of all, who am I? My name is Sarah. I go by Sarah Spaceman on the internet, and I am currently a full-time YouTuber. I quit my job just a little over 2 years ago, on Valentine's Day, actually. And I've been doing YouTube full-time ever since. I've also been a cosplayer for nearly 13 years. And before I quit my job to do YouTube, I also worked professionally as a video editor and a motion designer. So I have a lot of perspective on content that comes from an industry standard thing, but also I have managed to make it my full-time job, so I do also know a lot about the algorithm and stuff, and a lot about cosplay. But I also have a weaponized BFA in graphic design. And, okay, so part of this panel is basically like it's almost like an MLM pitch. It's almost a motivational speech. Who in here currently like does social media posts, specific, just in general, Instagram, TikTok, anything? Who's currently posting anything on YouTube? Just a couple. For the people that raised their hands first, but not the second time, why aren't you doing it? When I was a little baby, these are the things that stopped me from doing it. I would think, because it's too much work, or because no one will watch it, or because I will get more views on TikTok, or because I won't have any views, and that will make it embarrassing. And I have very good news and very bad news. All of these things are true except for that part. It is a lot of work. It is so much more work to post a 20-minute video on YouTube than it is to take 15 seconds of you dancing all cute and put it on TikTok. But it's also true that nobody will probably watch it when you're just starting out and you're just posting stuff. But it is not true that it will be embarrassing, because the only way to grow on YouTube is to do YouTube. For a long time, and especially when I started out, I wanted to have a YouTube channel since I was probably 17, in like the Michelle Phan era of YouTube. And back then, the sentiment was that if you want to start a YouTube channel, you have to go to another platform first to build up an audience on a platform where it's easier to grow, because like it used to be easy to grow on Instagram because you could just go to tags and like everybody's posts and people would follow you. But that's not true anymore. Like, you can't do that on Instagram anymore because they've changed the way tags work. You can't go to the Wild Wild West Con tag and see every single post that's on there because now they do this dumb algorithmic stuff, which also helps get rid of the bots that were doing that, but at the same time, it eliminates that human element. So now, that isn't true, and the best way to just grow on YouTube is to do it. So if you're gonna do it, the best way to grow is to make good content, and that's kind of like the crux of what this is. I'm gonna talk about what I know about what matters in making good content, and a lot of that is just basic stuff about like cameras and lighting and sound. So cameras don't actually matter nearly as much as you might think because people will forgive lower video quality a lot of the times more than they'll forgive something else that I'll get to. But good lighting can make bad cameras look really good, and bad lighting can make good cameras look really bad. I would say, and look, as you can see right now, my favorite vlogging camera is my phone because they're kind of awesome for vlogging specifically, if that is what you're interested in. For one, you always have your phone. Two, the cameras on especially newer phones, he has a Samsung, and I gotta say that the Samsung image stabilization is not very good, but the iPhone specifically has really good internal stabilization, which is really great because then you can walk around with your camera and not have to have any specific equipment to make it stable. But if you are interested in making videos about stuff you're making, you might want to consider getting yourself an old DSLR, especially for my steampunk people that work with a lot of black. If you're working with something like an iPhone, you don't have any control over the exposure. So black fabric just looks completely black. You can't see anything on it. And then if you're wearing it, maybe you look really washed out. But if you have an actual DSLR or mirrorless camera, you'll get full control over the exposure, which means that you can get those blacks to look rich and have the whites still come through. Especially if you're interested in actually learning how to do that with photography, a really good option is a used older model of a DSLR that'll run you like $300 or $400 as opposed to buying like a newer mirrorless camera, which can be upwards of like a couple $1,000s. I personally really like the Sony line of cameras now. They have everything from like little vlogging cameras to, I have the bottom of the line of the cinema line of cameras, which is very nice. It's everything I wanted and more, but I bought that kind of camera because I took several photography classes in college, and I know exactly what I'm doing with exposure. And the way I learned that was having a DSLR. And so that's why I'm usually like, I recommend if you want to get into that, if you want to have that powerhouse of knowledge of photography, get into it. If not, use your phone and deal with it. Personally, for lighting, I really don't like ring lights, but that's me because I have really light sensitive eyes, but they're fine. I do personally recommend the newer brand of lights. And I have LED panel lights, and they're really small, and they don't take up a whole lot of room, and they light you pretty nice. So the thing that matters a lot more than video quality is your audio quality. A lot of people just listen to YouTube nowadays, so they're not really gonna care if you're filming on a potato, but if it sounds like a potato, they're gonna really hate it, and they're not gonna stay, and they're not gonna watch it. Because the other thing, and I'll bring this up a lot, is that I always think about like what you should think about in terms of what content you're making. You have to think about the end user. You have to think, okay, some random person is gonna click on my video and they have no idea who I am, but they're gonna click on it and I have to get them to stay somehow, even though they have no idea who I am. And giving them any excuse to go away is bad, and sound is one of those things. You will lose so many people if the sound is bad. My personal recommendation is, first of all, if we're talking like bottom of the barrel, you don't want to spend any money at all, your phone may be your best microphone. Meaning that if you stand there and you are like recording voiceover, or you're just standing there talking to a camera, if you've got a phone, talking to the phone's microphone, and if it's close to your mouth, the sound will be decently all right. Adam Savage, are we all familiar with Adam Savage?
Jeez.
Are we familiar with his YouTube series? He does a series on YouTube called Tested. He films all of that on the front-facing camera of the newest iPhone. He doesn't use a mic. He doesn't use anything. It's just an iPhone. And he says he likes it that way because it means like when he backs up, then it sounds different. For a long time, what I used, and I highly recommend this, is to go out and get just a USB mic. They're not the tippy quality of audio, but they are so high and above of like the audio that will come out of like a DSLR camera or any camera or your phone. Your phone will probably have better audio quality than a camera's audio quality because cameras are not built for sound. But, and this does suck, I did this for so long. I had a USB microphone and a laptop behind me, and I ran Audacity on it. Audacity is just a free audio recording program. And it was really annoying because you had to make a new file every time, but it was worth it because it sounded really good. And you might be like, well, if I'm just starting to do this, does my sound really matter? Yes, it does. Because essentially what you're doing when you start out, even if nobody's watching you, you are creating all this content that people can then come back to whenever you do something that people are like, whoa, that's really cool, and the robot, gives you its love and you blow up. If your sound is good from all the way to the back of the catalog, people are still going to be willing to come watch those. I did that for a long time, but now I actually use that thing that guy's got right there, a Zoom. Is that a Zoom H6? Yep. It's a Zoom H6 with an XY microphone. For a while, I upgraded to one of those. That is a real audio recorder that can take XLR microphones. It comes with that XY microphone on top. This wonderful man bought it for me for Christmas one year.
That's love.
And I finally recently actually got, it's not up on there because this PowerPoint's a little old. I recently finally got an actual XLR microphone to plug into that, which is really cool because then I can kind of have two audio sources if I want. But I don't really use the Rode Wireless Go's anymore, but those are little microphones that can actually plug into the camera, and then they have little wireless microphone clips that you can wear, and that way you can walk around and stuff. I actually personally prefer, for that stuff, I have it in my pocket, this little guy. This is a Zoom H1N. It's basically the baby version of that. And I take this around for cons like this so that I can maybe record part of my panel or something.
Was that the one you used for the Jeopardy?
No, I did not have that then.
Okay.
I was actually holding that.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like, it didn't look that, it looked bigger on the video.
It was that one.
Okay.
Because that's all I had for a while.
Is that Zoom or Zoom?
A Zoom. Z-O-O. It's Zoom H6 is listed right there. That's what he has right there. You're good. But yeah, audio, very, very important. Okay, for editing, there's so much to say about editing. This slide is just like, this is the program that I use. This is a program that is industry standard that is free. Premiere Pro is an Adobe product, meaning that you have to have an Adobe subscription. Some people use Vegas Pro. Nobody uses Final Cut anymore. But whatever you're using to edit a video, it does not actually matter. I come from a motion design background. If you don't know what a motion graphics designer is, it's essentially a shitty animator. If you ever see commercials where there's just text on screen and there's a little text animation, that's what my bread and butter was because I come from a graphic design background. I like to create assets of design and then animate them. I do that with Adobe After Effects, which has a lot of connectivity with Premiere. I am known for that, but it's not necessary. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is like from this weird little niche job and wants to do all that, except, what's that guy's name? The guy that, when he starts his videos, Johnny Harris. Y'all know that guy? He was a motion designer too. Anyway, it's not necessary, nobody cares. People care way more about your audio than how fancy the graphics are in it. And they care way more about what you have to say about a thing than they do about how well edited the video is. 90% of people on YouTube are just talking to the camera, editing out the pauses, and throwing up some pictures on the screen, and that is perfectly fine. I do weird stuff.
I like your weird stuff.
Thank you. But editing is also, this is editing in terms of like the physical aspect of it. Part of editing is editing yourself and knowing what is important and what can go. And if it can maybe go, it needs to go. The big thing I have here is kill your darlings. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that literary term. It means to not be so attached to something in your work that you can't get rid of it if it's not working or if it needs to die. For me, the darlings I have to kill are jokes. Or footage of our cats that is really cute but like doesn't need to be in the video. Yeah, and then do not repeat yourself. So there's so many different ways to come at content. Like if you're scripting that content, you're probably not going to repeat yourself a whole lot in your script. But for a lot of what I do, sometimes there's a lot of it that's off the cuff. And if I'm talking about a sewing thing, I'm prone to just repeating the thing too many times. And then when I'm editing it, I might not catch that I have said the same thing 3 times in different ways. And then it takes me going back through and going, I don't need those. I already said that. We don't need to repeat it. And so part of what editing is knowing what to get rid of. My favorite thing in here is that time lapse has no place if you don't have anything to say about it. And that is a direct dig at a lot of sewing videos I watch. I watch a lot of like small sewing YouTube. I love it. It's like nostalgic for me because it reminds me of like old YouTube. But so many times people will be just sewing something, they're cutting out a pattern or something, and they're just playing a time lapse of it and playing royalty-free music. And it's like, I came here to hear you talk about your project. I didn't come here to listen to royalty-free music. Especially when you think about if you're interested in doing sewing content, a lot of what people do with sewing content is they put it on and then they go do some sewing stuff. That's what I do with a lot of it. I just want you to talk. I don't care what you're talking about. But I don't want to listen to royalty-free music. I would have put on music if I wanted that. And does anyone hate the sound of their own voice? Yeah? The good news is that goes away. It really does. There's a real scientific reason why when we hear our voices in recordings, we don't like it. It has something to do with the reverberation of your skull. But you get used to it. Now I can listen to myself talk over and over and over again, and I never get annoyed with it. Pacing, also very important to editing. I think about how long am I spending on this specific section? If I'm making something, making a cosplay that's a skirt and a sweater, how long did we spend on the skirt? How long did we spend on the sweater? Does that need to be any shorter? Are we moving along through this? Or are we spending way too long on this one thing? And also how varied are your shots? Are you just looking at the same thing over and over again? We live in a world where everyone is addicted to TikTok and every video is 15 seconds long. I'm not saying that you have to cut every 15 seconds, but you gotta remember the attention span of the average person nowadays. Again, if you don't have anything to say about that time lapse, cut it out or make up something to say about it, you know? All right, music is a huge thing for me. It's also a huge thing to help pacing. So music in content when you're on YouTube is a little complicated because we have copyright laws and copyright claims. Essentially, if you have no idea, no, you cannot play just popular music in your YouTube content. What will happen is that video will get claimed by the company that owns that song, and then they will take the revenue from that video. So you can't play anything that anybody owns. However, there is lots of music out there that is specifically royalty-free. The YouTube audio library is a huge library of a bunch of royalty-free music that is directly in YouTube for you to just download and get. It's a little weird now because they have a system where you can pay to license like actual pop songs. So when you go to the YouTube audio library, there's all this stuff that costs money, and I don't want that, I want it free. But if there's a filter, you can put $0 and it'll show you all the free stuff. I personally use Epidemic Sound, which is a paid subscription service to get even more royalty-free music. There is good stuff on the YouTube audio library, but there's also a lot of bad stuff, like the most corporate-y, like generic, like that stuff. There's so much of that it's like, ugh. But Epidemic Sound has a huge library of like really good music, but then you're like tied to a subscription. So, but it does come with like, it has a Premiere plugin now, so you can like pull the songs directly into Premiere without actually having to even leave Premiere, which is pretty cool. File hygiene. I love file hygiene. So for me, this is my blank project folder. Every video I have has a blank project folder. And it is a system that I pulled from my first job as a motion designer. It is what we used for our professional client projects, and it was a way for us to keep all of the assets of that video together and not get lost, especially since we were working as a team. If somebody needed a logo, it was in the graphics folder. If we have voiceover, it's in the audio. Though I put most of my audio in the footage folder because the way I film things, I sort my footage all in the footage folder. I call them dumps. Go ahead and laugh. I sort them by day, and I name them after what I was doing. So dump one was the petticoat. I did the petticoat in a day, and I got all my cards, and I put them in a folder. And I do that, and I have to do that, because I'm working at this point with multiple cameras and audio devices, so I have a lot of files that go into making one thing. But at the same time, even if you're only working with one camera, you still want to be able to go through and know what footage you're looking for when you go to edit it. I personally, when I'm doing a video, when I'm making a thing, I will not go more than one day without editing that piece of footage that I have, unless it's my wedding dress that I am letting pile up in a folder because I know I can't edit it until we actually get married.
Congratulations.
But yeah, I am really weirdly obsessive with that, because if I don't, it's gonna sit there for too long. And I'm lucky enough that this is my full-time job and I can do that. When this was not my full-time job, I did not do that. But it's still good to keep them in folders and organized so you know what you're coming back to, especially if you have 30 clips of something. You want to know what those 30 clips are for, and you don't want to be looking through all that stuff. Okay, this is the big part. I have to warn y'all, because when I get to talking about intros, this panel is like a year old. There's a Mr. Beast quote in here. This was before Mr. Beast did all that bad stuff.
Sorry,
but also, he has said some really good stuff, like, to know about intros, and clearly the man knows how to get people to click on videos. But if you weren't aware, somehow, the title and the thumbnail of a video are like the most important thing when it comes to actually getting people to watch a video. Whether that's new people that have no idea who you are, or people that do know who you are. The title and the thumbnail are how you get people to click. Wrong way. And it's because of this concept. So, a captive audience versus a captivated audience. So, we're so used to, and I say that like, I feel just because more people are doing things like using TikTok and Instagram, we are so used to these platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels, where you did not actually make a decision to play the video that has been presented to you. It comes up, it plays, you might scroll away, but you did not actually have to make a decision in choosing to watch that content. It made that decision for you. You are a captive audience. YouTube is the opposite in that you have to, a human being has to decide to click on that title or that thumbnail. You have to be a captivated audience. And the way we get people captivated is the title and the thumbnail. It's essentially the packaging of your piece that you have made. So this is me calling myself out for directly copying a thumbnail style from Rotten Mango. Yeah, Stephanie Sue, blah. There's so many problematic YouTubers. Anyway, this is a great thumbnail style. It's not just used by Stephanie Sue. It's very similar to what Philip DeFranco does, what Sophia Nygaard does. The face in the middle with the bottom text and the pictures on the side. That's exactly what I did for that video. I copied it directly from Rotten Mango. And it worked. That video has almost 2 million views now. Thanks to this poor man getting booed off stage.
We love you.
But also, the very classic red circle and red arrow. The reason, did that make you look at that? Yeah? It's human nature. It's, ooh, what is that supposed to be? The color red, it draws your eye. The arrow, it's like, what am I supposed to be looking at? It works. I use it all the time. Everybody uses it. Look at Rotten Mango using it right there.
It's like the menu.
Titles, though. This is a little bit of a confusing slide. So what this is for that video that I just showed you the thumbnail of, this is all of the titles that I wrote for that video. I write lots and lots of titles for every video. I just spitball every idea I have, and then one comes above the rest. The hard thing is deciding which one comes above the rest. And there are two things that I do. The first thing is I try to think about like, what is the Occam's razor of this? But also, what is the simplest and most generic way I can say this? Because the other thing you always have to think about is, and especially in niches like cosplay, like steampunk, we're very niche. There are not a lot of people in these communities. And so you have to think about, how do I get somebody that is like not interested in this niche at all to click on this thing about this niche and be interested in it? Because most of the time I feel like everybody is interested enough in any kind of niche that if the title is interesting enough, they'll stay to find out more. But that title has to be so perfectly like generic, you know? So a lot of these were eliminated because they contained the word DreamHack. Not everybody knows what DreamHack is, but even if you don't know what a costume contest is in the context of the cosplay community, you still understand what a costume contest is, and you understand that it's bad. The second thing I do is I take this entire list, I copy the whole thing, and then I go to multiple large language models of AI, and I ask it, which one of these titles would get the most clicks on a YouTube video? And they both picked that one. It's a weird thing to do, but the thing is you are fighting a robot with your titles and your thumbnails, and sometimes you have to get that nudge from another robot to know what a robot would want. But also, I say the YouTube robot is in the YouTube algorithm, but it all does come back to the human nature of it. The captivated audience, some person has to still click on that, you know? So it is a robot, but it's a robot that is determined by decisions that humans make. So there's an element of just trying to find the Occam's razor, sometimes those large language models can tell us what that Occam's razor is. And when we're the other thing is when you get into projects like this, you get so into the weeds with what you're doing. If anybody's familiar with like lawyering, I'm a big law fan. A YouTuber I like, her name's Emily D. Baker, when she watches trials. Yeah. She talks about how during opening statements, which is when the lawyer has to present to the jury the case and make sure they understand it and prime them for what evidence they're going to get, they have to remember that the jury members have never heard of this case before. And the lawyers, because they've been so ingrained in the case, forget to get out of the weeds and give everybody a grand overview of what this thing is. And that is what titles are, but more importantly, yeah, I said that. The intro has to be that. So this is the Mr. Beast quote, sorry. But this is from an interview that Mr. Beast did with Colin and Samir. They're two YouTubers. If you are unaware, Mr. Beast is the largest YouTuber on the planet by a lot and like historically. This first thing is a quote from Mr. Beast video. It was him talking about this intro in this interview. The intro to that video was, I tied up an FBI agent. I have $1,000 in this bag. Here's a knife. Good luck. And he described this intro as it's everything you need with no wasted words. It's short, concise, and then there's tension. Did anybody catch the new Mark Rober video about the Teslas? A little bit. The intro to that video, he's like, I'm in a car driving 35 miles an hour towards a brick wall. It's exactly that. It's everything you need. It's short, concise, and then it's tension. But how the hell do you do that when you're not making videos about FBI agents and knives or cars and Teslas and shit? Well, you work with what you got. This incorrectly is not my highest view video anymore, but this was the intro to one of my highest viewed videos. Was I spent 6 months making this cosplay, and now I'm taking it to the Winter Cosplay Championship. It was everything you needed. There were no wasted words, and it was short, it was concise, and there was tension. And that video is what made my channel blow up. And I just kind of walked into this explanation of having this like work. Oh, intro's important. Get out of the weeds. Okay, this is a thing that's specifically about cosplay. So, when people start to do like professional cosplay, one of the things people start saying is, well, you have to do popular characters or nobody's gonna care what you're doing. And it's partially true and it's partially not true. I kind of operate on a one for me, one for thee basis. If there's a popular character that I like, from a thing that I like, and I think, I like them enough, I'll make a cosplay of them. Because, yeah, you do get an extra boost from fandom. I wouldn't have had the Instagram following I had back in the day if I hadn't been a huge part of the Steven Universe fandom. And it does play a big role, but what I think nowadays is more important is stuff that is visually striking. People like pretty dresses. People like to see people in pretty dresses. They like videos of lots of crazy stuff. Charlotte, Miss Twisted, if anybody knows her, she had a video do really well because her thumbnail was her as one of those has-been hotel characters. Whoever has 4 arms, and those 4 arms are really visually striking, but also that's a really popular fandom. So it's both things. And it's the same with steampunk. Is that visually striking, you know? Oh, okay, this is the end of the panel. Okay, the most important thing though, besides your sound, is to be yourself. I'm actually really serious though, because nobody wants to watch a dollar store version of somebody else. Every single person in this room is a uniquely different person who somebody somewhere in the world will vibe with more than anybody else. being yourself is so important. It is so much more important than good editing. It is so much more important than good sound. People want to see real people on YouTube. They want to see their real thoughts. They want to hear what they have to say. And if you're just pretending to be somebody else, then nobody's going to want to watch it. And my best example of that is I have this YouTuber that I watch. Again, I watch a lot of small sewing YouTube. And there's this woman whose name is The Sucky Seamstress. She has like 300 subscribers. She straight up does not edit her videos. She hits record on her phone and talks for 30 minutes about historical costuming and her life as I think she's a substitute like preschool teacher now. She just talks for 30 minutes and it's like listening to somebody on the phone that's your friend that's talking about historical costuming. I love her videos because she's just herself. And herself is not editing her videos. Which means I don't know that she will ever grow much bigger than 300 subscribers because her videos are not edited. But there's somebody out there, me, that vibes with that and wants to watch that. But yeah, be yourself. That's my panel. Yay! I can answer questions if anyone has questions. Yes, ma'am.
How often do you recommend posting? I found that for myself, I stopped because I felt like I was having to complete a project every week or two, and it just became so much that I'm like, I just can't.
Yes, my whole thing with that is if you look this stuff up, they're always like, oh, post daily, post weekly, post this. I don't think it matters because it doesn't, especially if I'm assuming most people in this room are adults with adult jobs. Nobody ever said that you had to put your life on pause to do social media. The thing is like, if you build it, they will come. And they can come slowly. That sounds wrong. But it might happen slowly. But they will come, you know? Like, I'm a big believer in just like posting when you want to, on your terms, with your life, that it matters to you. And if the only people that are looking at that stuff are your friends and your besties for a little bit, that's fine. If you've got one friend laughing at and giggling at what you've posted, it doesn't matter how long it takes for anything to grow. And like, yes, like algorithmically, the algorithms like it when people post consistently, but when you think about the person posting that stuff, it would hurt me to tell people to do that because I don't actually think it matters that much, you know, especially on YouTube, because the interesting thing that's different with YouTube as opposed to like Instagram and TikTok is videos get picked up again. I just have a video that I posted last summer just randomly start getting like 15,000 views a day again for no reason. Because the algorithm is just like that. It'll just pick stuff up again. So however much you want.
So I had two things. Earlier when you were talking about like intros, it's I watch all my YouTube on my TV, so it'll do the autoplay. And so that's one thing that's really important for like hooking people in is that like, what is it, like 30 seconds to a minute it'll play of the first part of that video. That helps draw people in, and so that intro is really important. So that's something I really appreciate. And then I also, what drew me, like being yourself, what drew me a lot in like wanting to stay watching your channel was how honest you were about things, because you're like, so this is how you're supposed to do it, but I'm not doing it this way, and this is why. And this is a historical thing, but I'm going to use it for this and bastardize it. And so I just loved that, of where you're like explaining why you're doing it differently than everybody else, and just going through all those motions of like explaining it, but also being real about it, of like, I know it's, but you explain it out and everything and give good justification. And yeah, I just love that like honesty for the like being yourself, of where you're just like, yeah, we're not going to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question. You?
when you're talking to the camera, do you try to write the text out in advance so you're able to deliver what you're saying without hesitation? And do you have any problems keeping your eyes aimed at the camera?
So, a couple things about that. So it depends on what I'm doing. I do a lot of scripted stuff now. So like whenever I do vlogs, I'm primarily doing voiceover, and I'm just sitting there reading, and I'm literally sitting there reading, looking at. I'm not even on camera. But when I am on camera, specifically now, if you're familiar with my content, whenever I'm sitting in front of my sewing desk, like I have my grandma's machine behind me, I am reading off a teleprompter at this point. I would say when I first started, what I would do, and if I had a scripted section, primarily the way my content started is I would do stuff and say whatever, but then I would have some stuff like prepared where I like, if I wanted to explain a specific technique, I might have written out what I wanted to say prior, and I would have the script like taped under the camera. And so I would look down and then look directly into the lens. Because I do actually think it's really important to look directly into the lens. Now that I have a teleprompter, I am a little bad about doing the teleprompter eyes. And when I see people do the teleprompter eyes, I notice it, and it kind of drives me a little bit crazy, but like I get it. But then also I do a lot of stuff where I'm just talking off the cuff. I'm just saying whatever comes to my mind. Though I don't know that I ever found it hard to like look directly in the lens. I will say when I first started filming like YouTube videos, I felt very awkward on camera. You have to get used to it. It feels really weird, especially when you're in a room with your partner and they're over there playing RuneScape and you're sitting there talking to a camera. It's weird. It feels weird, but you get used to it. And that's why the thing I kind of advocate for when I do this panel is if you want to do this stuff and you're like scared that you're not good enough, just start making content. And then if you don't like how it came out, just don't ever post it. It's just you're practicing. If you're having fun making a video, maybe just show it to your friend and it's their video for them. Maybe the sound is bad, maybe it's bad. But you've just practiced learning how to make content and you didn't have to show it to anybody. Yeah.
When you're talking about the teleprompter, do you recommend any use software? Do you use it on your computer, or do you actually have a machine?
It's not a machine. So nowadays what they have is it's literally just like, they're pretty cheap because it's literally just like a piece of metal to hold an iPad or a phone. And then it's just a piece of like plexiglass that goes this way. So I think mine was like $30 or $40 because it's literally just a piece of metal to hold the camera and the iPad. And so it's not actually a machine, it's just a piece of plexiglass with a little hood on it.
What's your favorite video? Oh no, my hat.
No, your hat.
And how does that view count? Like, is it one of your top viewed, one of the least viewed, just a mid-tier video?
What is my favorite video I've made?
Yeah.
It's Can This Cosplay Win an International Contest? And not because it did really well, because that's the best video I've ever made. It is my favorite thing I've ever made. If you're unfamiliar, it's a video and I went and I won a costume contest. And I had the help of my beautiful, wonderful friends, Pins and Snip, and they helped me film stuff backstage and on stage, and that video would not be what it was without them. I got struck by lightning, and I got all this great footage of all this wonderful stuff happening in the competition community, and the edit on it slaps. If you are familiar, the Carol of the Bell part of that, when I'm flashing between me coming up to the stage, and when I first edited that, I was like, this is the best thing ever done. I've never topped it. Anyway.
Well, I have a question for you. I know this is one of those things I have a fear of. How do you keep your privacy? How do you separate yourself from what your content is, and to stop, I did have a stalker at one point. I was wondering, how do you handle that situation? What's the best way to handle that?
So yeah, that's a huge thing. If you're going to post anything on the internet, you do have to be wary of strangers, stranger danger. People get on the internet and they lie, and it's scary. I'm pretty guarded when it comes to like personal stuff. I give my opinions on things. I give my knowledge on sewing. I share the adventures that I have, but I don't talk a lot about me. And I do, but well, the first is security. So like you never say your name. Make sure your handle isn't your full name. You don't want to tell people where you work or where you went to school or where you go to school, or you just have to be so careful with any personally identifying information, which is something I have been very careful about for a pretty long time. That's like the safeguard of your personal safety. But then there's also the safeguard of like your emotional safety. And for me, the way I guard that is I share parts of myself, but not all of myself. You're never gonna know all of Sarah from watching my content, because I carefully manicure what I am willing to put publicly out there. And it's a thing you should always be thinking about. What am I okay sharing? Big feelings, we all have big feelings about a lot of things. And what you're having big feelings about, it depends on what it was, what it is, and how you express those feelings. But, you know, getting on, like, I think a lot of the problems people have is less to do with content like YouTube, because when you're posting things on YouTube, there's a lot of filters you have to go through before it gets on the internet. You're editing it. For me, I'm watching that video 700 times and doing 70 rounds of edits before it goes anywhere. I'm having him watch it to make sure there's nothing in there that he thinks might be a little too much. And so you have a lot of filters before it goes to the public. I think where people run into problems is the more like immediately gratifying platforms like an Instagram story or a Snapchat or streaming, being live, you know, that's where things can like slip and happen, and people have outbursts that maybe they wouldn't normally want to have on the internet. And maybe not to get too dark, but like if you get to a point where you show too much emotion and you give too much of yourself, you start to encroach on like lolcow territory, and you don't want to be there, because then you get stuff where you get people that are obsessed with you for all the wrong reasons, and you get really bad stuff happening. So guard what you are, like what you need to guard. That I guard a lot of things to stay safe.
To add on to that, like when you announced the engagement, you waited to the very end of that video to talk about it. I totally teared up and cried. But
I also didn't say anything about it either.
No, you didn't. The whole video, nothing was said, and then literally at the end, it was he proposed to you at your birthday and everything, and it was just like, oh my God, what a surprise!
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to share that because I do plan on having like wedding content.
Yeah,
but to explain that, for me, we're doing like a private ceremony, just the two of us, and then what we do at our like big party is just going to be very silly, goofy. Mm-hmm. It's something I'm willing to show people on the internet and his cousins. But I'm not willing to share like the private vows with people. But, yeah. Anybody else?
So, how did you guys, how were you discouraging like posting videos, something like that, where this is the worst costume contest I've been at now, you can't go to that convention, and then like you feel big concerns about like people upset at you, like why you created that, and now all these people are upset at you.
So here's the interesting thing about that. So that video that I use as an example in this, my thing, for me, this is a personal thing. I really don't like lying. Like, yeah, nobody likes lying, but like it's been a thing my entire life that I like. If I was trying to lie to my mom, I would lie, and then she'd be like, "Really?" And I'd be like, "Oh no." Like, did you go get your flu shot at school? Yeah. No. So for me, with the DreamHack thing, there were so many things about that were crazy, but there were also a lot of things about that I could not say in that video. One of the things that made me feel like I'm good to do this is I actually knew that the lady that was responsible for that costume contest it was her last year at the con, and I knew new people were coming in, and I wanted those new people to know what they needed to change. And the cool thing is they did. They saw that video and were worried about it, and they improved their costume contest. They got better judges, they treated the contestants better, and that is why I don't feel bad about it at all, because like, yeah, it's gonna make people upset, and I kind of have to like deal with that. Like, DreamHack's not gonna ask me back, you know, but they're gonna make a better contest for the people that come do it, and that's what makes me really happy.
I know I keep adding. I know that Dina, our owner, because we're both big fans of your videos, she's taken a lot of the notes from your videos to then
That's the other
put
thing.
into our con. Like, we got rid of our costume contest and are just doing our fashion show because of like some of the issues you pointed out. We realized, oh, we're kind of close to that, or what have you. And so it's good for just also con owners and people who run them to know this is where things get messed up and where you can improve and everything. So like, you've already done stuff for us, you know, because you do that.
Yeah,
you know,
and
so
that's the other thing. I've done in the last year, I've done a lot more like drama stuff, and it's done very well because it's human nature. Like, I love watching drama videos. So if a bad movie comes out, I will watch 7 different I probably watch 10 videos on Madam Web. I love when people complain about stuff. It's my favorite thing, and I like making that content too.
what's that new Chris Pratt movie or whatever on Netflix?
Chris Pratt.
It's the robot one where like the robots
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know.
I can't remember the name, but there's been so many videos about how terrible
Oh,
it
that
is.
thing, yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't even need to watch it. I'm just gonna watch all these videos explaining how bad it is.
I love stuff like that. So I like making that stuff, but it's also like, well, I don't want to just be making drama videos that are just like popcorn. I want there to be a reason. Like, I just made a video that came out on Thursday that was about the pipe burst that happened at a con over in Washington, D.C. And I made it. Actually, can you stop recording that? Sure. Just for 5 seconds? Yeah. Anybody else? Ooh. Who's ready for a rant? So, shorts, bad. Shorts, really bad. If you like doing short form content, that's cool. Do it on Instagram and TikTok, or have a separate shorts channel. I do not do shorts because YouTube shorts are botted. They are fake, they are crazy, and also the people that watch shorts do not watch long form content, and I have like actual proof of that now, because I'm actually in a Discord with a couple other cosplay YouTubers, including, her name is Miss Twisted on YouTube, her name is Charlotte, and my friend Lee, or Lizard Lee. They both went heavy on shorts because they were heavy on short form. They did it on their main channels. They gained a lot of subscribers from that, and then it absolutely tanked their long form views. And it frustrates the hell out of me because these are people that are making pretty good long form content about cosplay, and there are not many of us. There are not many of us, period. And the way the algorithm has worked or the way it does work, is it's gonna show that video to your subscribers, but if your subscribers are all just here to watch your shorts, then they're not clicking on the long form videos. And so you end up with a channel that, like Miss Twisted Charlotte, she's actually considering abandoning her main channel for her long form content and just making it a shorts channel, because she made a second channel to post like extras on, because she was going to start pushing shorts on that because they've all realized what's going on. And then she posted a long form video on the second channel, and it popped off more than anything on her main. And so now when we talk, we're talking about her switching that, and it's shorts bad.
You tell my kids that that the shorts are so easy to make that it's
Yes.
for them, and I'm trying to guide them.
Yeah, and they're bad in the sense, they're not bad in the sense that if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But then the other thing, and I didn't really talk a whole lot about this at the beginning, is that when you think about these platforms, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch and YouTube are the only ones that you can actually kind of make a living on. And like for me, it took a year and a half to get to a point where I grew enough to where I could quit my job. But again, that is from a person that had this background in video editing and motion design. And so from the get, I had like higher quality videos. And so it didn't take that long. But for a lot of people, it takes years and years and years. But you can spend years and years and years on TikTok and have a big TikTok audience and have built that. TikTok does not pay very well. None of the short form anythings pay any kind of living wage, including YouTube Shorts. It is actually easier to get monetized on YouTube Shorts, but you are going, like, view by view, you make so much less money on Shorts than you do on long form content, especially when you get to the point where you can have sponsorships. There's a living in long form. There's a living in streaming and Twitch that's a lot harder to grow on because you have to be really entertaining all the time and you can't hide behind good editing. But there's actually a living, whereas TikTok there's not, unless you want to do the NPC streams. But yeah. Anybody else? Questions?
We're just happy you're here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank y'all for coming. This is so many more people than yesterday. I had 4 people show up to my sewing panel.
I was sick, okay? I would have been there.
Yeah. Y'all have a good wild WestCon.
Thank you.
I don't know where my fiance is. Probably in the bathroom.
Are you feeling better at least?
I am definitely feeling
Thank you for listening to the Creative Play-In Podcast Network. If you enjoyed our show, please check out D&D Journey of the 5th Edition and Ragnarok Enroll a Scion Hero to Ragnarok Story. Also, check out our Patreon page for more content and behind-the-scenes things, as well as joining us for a one-shot game or two.